Tinder Swindler. Why the girlfriend stood by him. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Last year, I created an excellent series about the Tinder Swindler, Simon Leviev, and the way that he'd gone about conning and defrauding 3 women, a Norwegian, a Swede, and a Dutch lady. If you haven't embraced my Tinder Swindler series, I encourage you to do so, because it shows you a brilliant breakdown of the ways that he manipulated them, but also the way that they responded to him. And it enables you to understand so much more about the dynamic between him and them and see various facets of his narcissism. If you care to be a member of my channel, and you ought to, you'll also then be able to access a breakdown as to what his victims were, in terms of were they narcissists themselves, empaths, or normal people, or simply narcissistic. There's also a breakdown of what Simon Leviev is. You can obtain those by being a member of the channel, or you can just go to the Knowledge Vault and purchase them. But either way, I would encourage you to access this series because it will give you a fundamental understanding about narcissism with real-life examples. Well, the Tinder Swindler has come back up on my radar, and as a consequence of a BBC article that's written by Megan Mohan and Faye Nurse. But this time it involves the girlfriend of Simon Leviev. And the other 3 ladies thought they were his girlfriend, but in actual fact it transpired that they weren't. They were intimate partner secondary sources. And the headline for this article is Tinder Swindler: Why I Stood by My Abusive Ex. When Netflix documentary The Tinder Swindler came out in February 2022, Simon Leviev's girlfriend stood by him. Now, she says she felt she had no choice because she was under his emotional control. It is common, as a consequence of the manipulative hold that the narcissist has upon his or her victim, and the presence of emotional thinking amongst some of those victims, that victim doesn't see what's truly going on. Prince Harry is an obvious example of that vis-à-vis Harry's wife. Many people, not understanding narcissism, will look at the victim and think, why did you not go sooner? Why didn't you see what was going on? Why would you stay? Often when they hear about the fact that that person has, for instance, taken repeated physical beatings off the narcissist, off the abuser, they will say, first time anybody raises their hands to me, I'll break their jaw and I'll be out of there. That may well be their sentiment, but they don't realise what it is for that victim when they're subsumed in the maelstrom that is our manipulative hold, and of course the fog of their own emotional thinking. This is why we choose empathic victims as our chief choice of victim. They are easier to ensnare and keep ensnared. They cater to the prime aims better than anybody else as a consequence of being easier to control, fountaining with fuel, and invariably having those decent character traits and residual benefits. Of course, there may be non-empaths who have better residual benefits and character traits compared to an empath, but their fuel provision and controllability are more problematic. And that is why we pursue the empaths, because we will find those that have good character traits, sometimes excellent, and ditto residual benefits. Invariably, the fuel provision is elevated, particularly if they are of the Giza provision in terms of their cadre, but most of all, empaths, as a consequence of their susceptibility to us by virtue of their addiction, are the easiest to control, the easiest to bring under control in the first place, and the easiest to keep under control. And this is because of the addiction, the fog of emotional thinking. Many people look at it and think, oh, I would have spotted it straight away. Yet no victim, I repeat, no victim, first time of asking, ever realises that they're with a narcissist. This is because they don't know what to look for, and because of the fog of their emotional thinking. And therefore, often people are somewhat unsympathetic to some of these victims, thinking, okay, you didn't know at first, but once the bad behaviour started, you ought to have left. But that demonstrates a lack of understanding of the dynamic between narcissist and victim. We extend our manipulative tendrils to ensure that you stay in situ And because of the fog of your emotional thinking, you don't walk away. Instead, for a variety of reasons, none of them logical, but apparently seeming logical to you because of flawed logic, you end up staying. You don't want to admit defeat. You want to get back to the golden period, not realizing that it was fake. You feel a sense of obligation, that you want to help this person, that they're perhaps damaged and it would be wrong to walk away from them. The number of reasons are many, but they're driven by flawed logic. And undoubtedly, this will have been an aspect of this individual whereby she continued to stand by Simon Leviev, notwithstanding his abusive behaviours, and has only now realised that she was under emotional control. The article continues. A young blonde woman is sitting on the edge of a bed, cradling her left foot with her left hand as she speaks into her phone. Some of her hair sticks to her face, which is wet from tears. You can see a cut on her heel, her eyes are bloodshot, and her face red. But her voice is clear as she gives the person on the other end of the phone line directions to the apartment. In front of her, an open and packed suitcase lies on the floor. We are watching a video filmed on a phone from the night of the 29th of March 2022. The man filming the video raises his voice to say, "It's bullshit. Nothing's happened to her." Denial. The man is Simon Leviev, the convicted con artist and subject of the Netflix documentary, The Tinder Swindler. The woman is 23-year-old Israeli model Kate Conlin, who was then his girlfriend, intimate partner primary source. Leviev sent the video to the BBC with other videos and documents about their relationship, assertion of control indirectly through smearing. "She lies and she lies," he wrote, smearing. "Of course he'd call me a liar," Kate Conlin tells the BBC. He called every woman who has spoken out against him a liar, nullification of threat to control by smearing, and, of course, projection. He doesn't want me to tell my story of emotional abuse. In the beginning, Ms. Conlin's friends adored Leviev. "Kate, he's too perfect," she recalls them gushing. "It's even a little scary." Shimon Hayeda Hayut, who legally changed his name to Simon Leviev, slipped into her Instagram DMs in 2020, hoovering, use of social media, and within weeks they were together. Speed of ensnarement, moving to relationship very quickly. "At first our relationship was a love bomb," Ms. Conlin tells the BBC. "He was obsessed with me. Love bombing, infatuation." Leviev accompanied her to modelling shoots, monopolisation of time, and waited while she worked. He cleaned her home, false compassion, and sent her long and loving voice notes, hoovering flattery. It was intense. But as a 23-year-old, it was what she thought love should be, she says. But after a while, the fight started. Ms. Conlin says that he criticised her appearance. Devaluation, assertion of control through appearance. Criticised her clothes, her weight and her skin. She experienced bouts of acne. She began to lose confidence. She wasn't sure what he would say next. "I felt I was walking on eggshells," she says. She saw her friends less and less, isolation, assertion of control over her as a consequence of alienating her from her friends. She saw her friends less and less during the 18 months they were together, and when she did, they said she was no longer the lively, colourful and sociable person they had once known. "They said I was grey," she says, looking down at her hands. Change of personality as a consequence of the application of abuse. After a few months, Leviev began to ask for money, residual benefit, exploitation, borrowing thousands of dollars at a time up to a total, Ms. Conlin says, of $150,000. She was already an international model who had been on the cover of Vogue Japan, Grazia Italy, and Wallpaper magazine in the United Kingdom. She was financially secure, and she says he knew it. Ms. Conlin has sent the BBC more than a dozen of Leviev's voice notes. He often shouts and asks for loans, saying that his own money is tied up in investments. Lie. In one, he shouts as he explains why he cannot pay her back. "Kate, I'm a millionaire." Lie. "And that's a fact. At the moment I'm stuck. Understand, I'm stuck. Do you understand that in your screwed up brain, that bird brain of yours, I'm stuck, Kate. I didn't steal from you. You gave it to me of your own free will. You lent it to me. I'm stuck, that's all. Revision of history, gaslighting, assertion of control." The Tinder Swindler, which became Netflix's most watched documentary in 90 countries when it was released in February 2022, alleged that Simon Leviev had conned women he met on the Tinder dating app out of about $10 million. He denies the allegations. denial as a means to nullify threat to control. Ms. Conlin says she watched it while sitting next to him on the sofa. I knew it was all true, she says. But she says she felt obliged to accept his version of events. That demonstrates the strength of the manipulations and her emotional thinking. She actually sits there and watches a program about him being a con man, knows it's true, yet doesn't leave. According to her, it was a controlling relationship, and it was easy for him to persuade her to defend him publicly, for example, on US news show Inside Edition. He told me, "If you stick up for me, people will believe me because you are a woman." At the same time, her Instagram inbox filled with abuse sent by people who had seen shots of her at the end of the Tinder Swindler. People told me they wished that I would get cancer or be run over by a car, and that I deserved the worst of everything because I was in a relationship with him, Ms. Conlin says. The arguments between the couple intensified, and on the 29th of March everything came to a head. I said, "That's it, I'm leaving, I can't take it any more." I started packing my stuff, she says. Ms. Conlin says the argument turned physical. She says he pushed her, and she cut her foot on a step with a rough edge. Physical violence, assertion of control. I was bleeding. I felt dead. I wanted to kill myself, she says. This brought the fight to a halt. It was then that Leviev filmed Miss Conlin as she called an ambulance and shouted out that nothing had happened to her. Revision of history. After going to hospital, she filed a complaint against Leviev with the police. When we asked Leviev to respond, he sent us 9 emails within 45 minutes and 2 more direct messages on the video sharing app Cameo in the days that followed. Nullification of threat to control, assertion of control by direct hoovers. There were many screenshots of WhatsApp messages and a video which shows Miss Conlin shouting and grabbing him. Leviev says he has never physically harmed any woman. Denial. Janie Starling, a campaigner against domestic abuse, says the picture Ms. Conlin paints of her relationship with Leviev follows a familiar pattern. Coercive control is something that happens on a daily basis and is very mundane. It's very small. It flies under the radar, she says. A lot of abusive men have never been physically violent to their partners, but they have been intensely controlling, intensely critical, belittling, and making threats. It's a bit of a red herring to look for physical violence as the ultimate determination of whether an abusive relationship is abusive. We put to Leviev several allegations Miss Conlin made about his behaviour, including that he had coercively controlled her, and he said she was lying. Despite being a convicted con artist, Leviev has thousands of followers on social media. He continues to post videos of himself driving expensive cars, triangulation by object, and spending time with beautiful women, triangulation with people. In some videos, people ask for photographs with him, as if he were a celebrity. He charges $100 for a personalised video message and £165 for a call, merching his notoriety, residual benefit. His popularity concerns the Anti-Defamation League. We are seeing a glamorization of a hyper-masculine anti-women mindset and lifestyle, and it is being peddled to the most acceptable, most impressionable people, especially young men in their pre-teen years, says Jessica Reeves, editorial director of the ADL Centre on Extremism. It's incredibly dangerous because what you're saying is, you can have this lifestyle too, and also, by the way, part and parcel of this is dehumanizing or generally hating women. Objectification, absence of emotional empathy. We asked Leviev if he accepted this description of his posts on social media, and he didn't respond. Assertion of control by staying in a position of withdrawal to nullify the threat to control. Today, Ms. Conlin laughs that she is perhaps one of the only models in the world who is happy to have gained weight. She says she was underweight from stress during her time with Leviev, adverse consequence of involvement with narcissist. After almost a year without offers of work following the release of the Tinder Swindler, her modelling career has taken off again. She now wants to tell young women what an unhappy and controlling relationship can look like from the inside. If a woman who is in the same situation sees what I experienced and how I got out, and that today I am stronger and more beautiful than when I was with him, she will hopefully see that she can also leave. She would also do well, of course, to watch my series about Leviev to understand fully what she was involved with, and also to understand why she behaved as she did. Her own recollection provides you with further understanding as to the strength that the narcissist can have over a victim by the way that we manipulate people, and the fact that your own emotional thinking can keep you in situ in the way that it did with Miss Conlin, who knew that her boyfriend was a con artist, would sit and see a program about him being a con artist and an abusive man, yet she still stayed with him. That is the power of manipulation and emotional thinking combined. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.